Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Blue Oval Podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Satlin. How's it going, man?
So through like the first round of our March Madness bracket, I think I had something like I was in the eighth percentile. I was so bad. I was so awful. I think I lost like two of my Final Four teams and then lost my third Final Four team, my champion Marquette, in the next round. The only team, however, that I've chosen to go to the national championship and lose in the finals is UConn.
Wow.
And therefore, I'm in the 96th percentile because of that, which is insane. Now, the group I'm in, I'm still in contention to win. My friend has UConn winning it all. If UConn wins it all, he wins all the money. If UConn loses, I win all the money. You can see why on Monday or whenever after this airs, I'll either be very happy or very frustrated. So that's how I'm going to start off this show.
You see, I was in the same boat with the start, but that's also how I ended. I had a terrible bracket. It was awful. And I think everybody struggled because, no, hardly anybody predicted this Final Four. But yeah, congrats to you. UConn pick, very,
Thank
very
you.
strong.
Thank you. Thank you. Keep going. But no, anyways, the reward for me was a +1 on what? Apple?
Apple. Yep.
We got a review, I believe, right?
We
Yes, we
did.
did.
Yes.
They said knowledgeable cave as the title, kind of like that. You all give us give us listeners the knowledgeable cave experience while I'm in the studio painting or carving. Thanks for keeping us all informed. The stats chief. In the future, it'll be good to see you develop a strat report for Masters running on 54, and then have a recurring show or segment. I actually kind of like that. It's very wholesome. It was really, really nice. I don't know if we're gonna be there anytime soon, but maybe eventually.
Hey, that's a nice niche for us, though. Like to
Yeah.
put on the list for the future. Like I think it would be us and us doing that if we ever did that in the future.
Yes. Well, guess what? When we actually expand and we get big, we'll make sure we find the right personnel to do so. I actually don't totally hate that idea. It's not a bad idea. Anyways, we have a few more important races, if I just have to say it, that happened this past weekend. Stanford Invite, Florida Relays, Texas Relays. There's a lot to talk about. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with Stanford and the 10Ks that we saw this weekend because, boy, I mean, maybe not so much on the men's side, but the women's side, I feel like really reset our expectations for this event this year. So why don't we start with those women? It was Emily Venters who took home the win in 31:48. Evelyn Kemboy, 32:03. Amanda Vestry, 32:08. And Anna Maria Costorales, 32:13 for your top four. I mean, this was the like four that really gapped the field before Venters just went on an epic run over the last, I guess it was probably a mile or two, really.
Yeah.
A really impressive performance from her. And these times, I mean, we were so excited last week about Alexandra Hayes running, what was it, 32:20 or something?
21. Yeah.
21. And then we saw these four women go flying past that. Venters in particular running 31:48. I feel a little foolish about being so excited about what Hayes did last week and saying that she was a true contender. And then we see four women run much faster. Where are you at with the 10K? Do you have any firm beliefs in the 10K? Because I no longer do.
Zero. I have zero firm beliefs. Like that's why, and the only reason why I was like not didn't want to get on the Allie Hayes bandwagon is because I knew there would be a point where it's like, well, surely someone will run faster, and then like we'll have to like retract. I I don't like. What am I supposed to say? Like I think I had I don't know four women breaking 20 or 33 minutes. There was like I think 17 in total, 13 collegiates, or I forget what the number is specifically. It's like how do you like here's for perspective, no one in the NCAA last spring on the women's side ran faster than I think 32:26 or 32:27.
Yeah.
And what we now have five women who have already done that, and it's April 2nd as we're recording this.
And a lot of women under 32:40. Like you go down, there was 11 collegiates, I think, who broke 32:40 in this race by itself. So that, I mean, just an incredible weekend for the 10K. And I mean, I think we had talked about Venters being someone that we had kind of circled as a possible contender in this event. And so I feel like her performance, the way she won, and the time, and just like her previous experience in the NCAA leads me to believe that she really is a true contender.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh, okay, sure.
everybody else could race, but I don't know what to say.
It's hard. Like, it's ridiculous that she's going to run 31:48, and we're like, I don't know if she can win the national title. It's just a ridiculous and absurd statement. Here's the thing: when you run the sixth fastest 10K time ever in collegiate history,
Yeah,
you deserve to say, like, I think she could maybe win gold one, like, in a race. Like, I think it's
yeah.
very realistic, especially in a race that seems to be wide open. Um, here's the thing: I think, like, I predicted her to win. I
Mm-hmm.
predicted her to run under 33 minutes, like comfortably under. I was not expecting this. I was 51 seconds off from her actual time of what I had predicted. I think I predicted her to run what? I'm not even going to try to do the math, but this is just next level. And now it makes me wonder, though. I'm like, what's Lauren Gregory going to run? What's Mercy Chelangot going to run? You start like trying to do the
Mm-hmm.
math in your head. I'm like, like what could Hilda Alamanwe
My way.
do if she
Yeah.
decides like, and here's the thing: Venters is truly like aerobically one of the best in terms of raw fitness. We saw this the past winter. She was an All-American 15:25K. Like, it's not crazy that she's going to have one of the fastest times in the country, but it now makes me wonder what are the other 10K specialists going to do.
And like on the men's side, you can look at cross country results where they're running a 10K on the grass and be like, okay, we kind of know who our 10K specialists are. But then on the women's side, when they're competing over 6K, you can have women like Caitlin Tui, Parker Volby, who haven't run a 10K but are dominating on the grass because their main event is the 5K, and that's very similar distance for their NCAA on the in cross country, and so it's just harder to kind of predict because you look at someone like Evelyn Kempoy and you're like, well, this seems like a huge like step forward for her. She had a very good cross country season, but then to run 32:03, this seems like a huge jump. But then what are we to think about maybe the women who beat her at NCAAs in cross country were better than her this indoor season? Like I think what you're kind of hinting at is how fast can the women who have been at the top of the NCAA over the last 3 months in indoor or over the last 6 months going back to cross country, if these women can run 32:0, not to take anything away from them for doing it, but what can these other women going out and do on the right race?
Look, it's just everyone's faster, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
extra eligibilities, it's the shoes. Like, I mean, it's clear. Like, and it's okay. That's all right. You can still have everyone run faster and still post impressive times. Like, that's
Yes.
clearly what we saw. That's totally fine. But I think it's fair to suggest, like, okay, well, exactly what you're saying. How much better is then going to be, someone who has comparatively been better over the last year? That said, I think there are instances where Kemboy, she did. I don't think she had a great cross country national meet
No.
appearance. I think she was 19th. I think she could have been top 10, or even
Agreed.
though that's not even that bad, honestly. But she was 19th, and then she truly is a 10K runner. She was last spring. She proved that. I think she made the national meet. So that doesn't surprise me that like she's one of the top contenders and runs a top time. But 32:03 is insane.
And like you said, all the factors that we've seen, the eligibility, the shoes, and all these things are big factors. And so while we are going to see times continue to drop over this year and next year and the years to follow, I'm sure, you still have to look at just like the discrepancies in time and like in the winning times and then who you're actually beating. And that's, I think, what makes Venter's win so impressive. If this was run 30 seconds slower, but she still won by 15 seconds over this strong field, I think we would be looking at this still as a very strong performance. The time obviously kind of makes your eyes pop out a little bit, and maybe there's a little bit of a like stun factor there. But like we all have to kind of recalibrate our expectations a little bit, and I think this is a perfect example. And the most important thing out of all this, while the time looks flashy, is that 15-second victory over a really strong field.
Yeah, I mean, now that said, I do want to give kudos where kudos are deserved. The top four women in this field, to very varying extents, have all had some challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ventures has made it very clear. She was very nice enough to do a Q&A with our, actually just an essay for us back in 2020, talked about some of her personal challenges that she went through. It's unlocked on the site if you guys want to go see it in our features tab, Trials and Tribulations of Emily Venters. Great piece. But she's gone from Boise State to Colorado, now to Utah, and she's finally hit that potential that I think we all realized that she could have. Kemboy, I mean, she's just kind of risen to this new tier. She's exciting, puts Utah Valley on the map, a little bit different. But then you have Vestry, all those years of going to the national meet, never being an All-American, 13 months out from racing, comes back as an All-American in the winter, just runs one of the fastest 10K times ever. And Anna Costa-Morales, great at Xavier, never really got there at New Mexico, and now she's at Baylor. Frankly, the last place I would have thought she would have been a top 25 10K runner of all time. She's now tied with Mercy Chelangat, and it's just this really awesome comeback story for a lot of those women.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is while I kind of dumped a little cold water on the times, it's still a very impressive performance, and they should all be very proud of it. Like this, the reason why we're a little stunned is maybe we weren't expecting these women to run this fast. Correct. And for them to prove us wrong is an exceptional performance. So very excited to see what they could do throughout the rest of the season and maybe other events. And then we're also very excited to see, I mean, what do some of these other women that we maybe had highlighted as 10K favorites, what do they end up running if these women have already run this so fast, so early in the season? Anything else on the women's 10K before we go to the men?
Nope, that's it.
All righty. On the men's side, we saw Charles Hicks in a furious last 100 meter with his huge kick take down Victor Kiprop just barely. Kai Robinson running 27.58 for third. Scott Beatty fourth in 27.58 as well. This was a really, really crazy finish. You would have bet so much. If they did live betting in track, the odds that Victor Kiprop was going to be caught in that last 200 would have been like negative 10,000. And like if you were foolish enough to bet on something with that low of odds, you would have lost a lot of money. Hicks odds would have been fantastic. Right. But just a crazy, crazy comeback. Hicks just, and you mentioned this in your First Thoughts article, he just gets on the track, sees 25 laps, and something shifts. Or he gets on the cross-country start line, and it's a 10K course, and something in him shifts. He is Mr. 10K. He shakes off a underwhelming indoor season to come beat a very strong field and run under 28 minutes. Just a very, very impressive performance for him. I mean, Kiprop was great to have that surge with about 300 to go to almost win, and Robinson to kind of come back after a underwhelming NCAA performance to come back and run this fast and nearly take home the win as well. I mean, I think everybody's got to be very happy with their performances here.
And that's what you really beat me to it. Everyone, I think, with the exception of like maybe Alex Mayer, who just had an off day, but like the top guys, this was a great race because everyone ran well. They didn't just run well. They all ran how they should have. And that's extremely rare. Drew Bosley's a little bit of a different instance. It feels pretty obvious that he was just told to wait, hang back. 28-18 is clearly not what his full potential is. He was being very reserved. But Hicks waited perfectly, kicked perfectly, right? Patrick Kiprop, Victor Kiprop, we all knew that they don't necessarily have the turnover, and it seems like they understand that. And so they started trying to get gaps early. They started trying to make a move early, try to take the kick out of some guys, and it worked in a lot of instances. I think Patrick Kiprop is growing at a really great rate. He's beginning to understand like championship races and nuances that get associated with that. Robinson held his own. He just kept himself there, and it worked. Hart kept himself there, and it worked. Like, I know, in Scott Beatty is like, just very quietly, I'm going to sit here and no one's going to see me. And then all of a sudden you look at the results, he's under 28 minutes. Like, it's all around just a great result.
It was funny because he was like hiding behind like
He
Patrick
was.
Kiprop. Like you literally, he couldn't see him at certain shots during the race, which was really funny. Yeah, really excellent performance from him. I mean, you go further down the list too, and there's guys running like Rory Leonard, 28-21. Really strong performance for the Oklahoma State runner. Will Smith, 28-24 for Gonzaga. Really good performance. I mean, you just, like you said, everybody you go down the list has to be thrilled with how things were executed. Even Bosley, like not running with that front group on purpose, has to be happy that he made it through, ran a qualifying time, and then can push at another time if he wants to get a faster time, or he just waits till regionals. I don't know how much there is to say other than good job, everybody. Like it's just a very good performance.
Yeah, I thought we were going to spend all the time on this, and I'm now realizing it's like, hey, listen, everyone just ran really well. Like, they're super fast. I was told that the pacing was going to be around 28:10 to 28:20. So clearly no one listened to the pacer or what it was supposed to be. So that was interesting. Real quick, a coach asked me, 28:55, does that get you into West Regionals?
Oh, I knew we were going to talk about this because
right?
I was already thinking about this and being like, oh man. Well, I don't even remember what it was last year. Was it 29 minutes last year or was it under?
Let's take a
I thought it
quick
was
glance.
like 29 O's or something. Which is
I
silly.
think it was just on the line. Yeah, so let me double check here, make sure I'm not. So last year, 48, and obviously guys scratched. Last year in the West region, it was 28:55. But oh yeah, and Liking got, oh, wow, Liking barely snuck in there. So yeah, it was like 29:02:03, something like that. It was barely.
Yeah, then no. I would say no. I mean, things are getting
So
faster.
yeah.
I think 28:55 might be like the line. So like Mare might get in, but it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be tight. I was just trying to count like how many West guys just ran faster than that. You go in. You got Mare, Martins, Devaney, McLeod. It's 4, 5, 6. This is great podcasting. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15. Or no, not 15. 14. 14, I think. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane for one meet. And that was April 1st. Like, yeah. So I think you're right. I don't think if you're on 28:55, I don't think you're getting it.
That's so disheartening that you have to run under 29. I remember like when I was in college, which wasn't that long ago. I'm holding on to my youth.
This was 30 years ago.
Yeah. If you ran under 30 minutes, you were like, probably have a good shot. Like, this is ridiculous.
No, it was like the only guys who ran under 29 minutes were like Ed Cheserek, Lowy Lalang, and like maybe a couple guys from Colorado, right? Like it was something absurd like that. And then like 2017, 2018 hit and it was completely different. So don't know why.
That's disheartening. I'm sorry, Alex Mary. You're gonna have to run another 10K.
Well, yeah, he was gonna run it anyways.
That's crazy. All right. Anything else besides us sounding really old on this
well,
race?
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me.
Hey, you are older than me, though.
They don't need to know that. All right. Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Let's go to the 3K steeplechase. And I believe this is all Stanford times. Make sure that I am correct on this. Kenneth Rooks, 8:33. Jordan McIntosh, 8:39. Joel Mendez, 8:39. Ed Tripas, 8:40. And Victor Shitsama, 8:40. Those are all Stanford, right?
Yep.
So what were your kind of first thoughts? Because we've seen a lot of quick times in the steeplechase already, highlighted by Matthew Wilkinson's 8:28 last week. Rooks is someone who has been at the national stage. Ed Tripas as well have both run very quick times before. So these times don't come as a huge surprise. I am a little surprised to see Rooks win this race as dominantly as he
Mhm.
did.
I think you taking a look between Raleigh and Stanford invite. This is a very good indication. I think last year's steeplechase field, it the jump that we're seeing in times last year, the steeplechase, like the top end of the steeplechase,
Mm-hmm.
took that leap. This year, the depth portion I think is going
Yep.
to follow and then take that leap. I think that's what we're seeing. Um, so that point aside, Rooks looked unbelievable. He sat in like fifth place, basically around there. Waited. 2 laps to go, gunned it to the front. No one had a shot. This dude, I can't remember the last time I saw someone with such perfect form over the final moments of a steeplechase race where you should be tripping over these hurdles. He looked like a 400-meter hurdler. It was so impressive. And he just powered away, looked so smooth. Sometimes, like you do, like sometimes I'll say this: 70% of the time, 60% of the time, you can kind of look at the results and kind of understand what the story was. And that's kind of the case here, but you kind of see what Rooks did, and then you'll realize like this guy's at a different level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at his splits here. I mean, again, 60 seconds for your last 400 over hurdles when it's not like a sit and kick race. Like he was going to run under 840 regardless of if he had a huge last lap. That is very impressive. And a lot of these, like, that's what I like to look at in these steeplechases. I think I highlighted that last week with Wilkinson. I like to look at those last laps because, like, when you have that much left and you can prove that you can close off a fast pace, that's ultimately what's going to get you, like, maybe not a win in the national title, but it's going to at least give you a shot.
I would agree. I would agree. Now, obviously, in this day and age, you're going to have to run, under the 820 barrier, around the 820 barrier,
Yeah.
To have a shot at the national title. So we'll see what actually happens and how much closer he actually gets there. But he wasn't really pushed in those last 2 laps. Fun fact: I think Rooks ran 60 seconds on the last lap, but
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Camilleri ran like 58.9 the last lap, like for his 5K. I think one of Rook's last 2 laps was faster than Camilleri's second to last lap in the 5K. So
Yeah, a 60-second last lap in the steeple is way better than a 58-second last lap in the 5K. That is a wild, comparison. And I mean, I think the thing about the steeplechase, you mentioned, like, obviously needing to get under 820 to win that title. I think what we always see with the steeplechase is if you run like 830 or 840 even in April, you're going to be running 820 or 830 in May generally. And so, like, you're running 10 or so seconds faster. And so him already running this fast, and Wilkinson running as fast as he did last week shows that these guys are going to be, like, really ready to go under that 820 mark in a few months.
Tripos 840 stuck around in the back, stuck around, and then tried to respond when Rooks didn't have the gear, got caught. I think it's just a fluke. I think it's just rust. I probably wouldn't be too concerned. I don't think. I guess we'll see. Just like some of these other guys, like I don't know if you had any additional comments on Joel Mendez, on Jordan McIntosh, but I mean, great races, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
good performances. Put them, beat Trippas, beat Suchsama, beat Ruiz, guys that I probably would not have predicted them to beat. Good performances, and I mean, they're gonna, again, what you do in April is a good indicator for a steeplechaser, but it really is in like 7 or 8 weeks. Like, that's gonna be like that's when everybody's all of a sudden at the top of the game, running as fast as they can. If they can continue to kind of push this progression forward, they're going to be right there, but they're going to have to get much, much faster.
Joel Mendez, here's his resume. 1500, 351, mile 412, 3Ks 821, 5Ks 1430. Now, granted, he was previously at Montana and he's currently at Utah Valley, so I imagine a lot of his races are at some level of altitude. So that should be noted and fair to him. But oh yeah, so
That's
you're
one of
running.
the shortest gaps between your 3K steeple PR and your 3K flat PR.
But it's funny because then you look at his steeples, and he's run 8:42 at Brian Clay, 8:45 at West Regionals, 8:39 now at Stanford. So he was at Montana last year. But very interesting how some guys just hit the steeple for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason, and they're just different guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we saw that. I mean, being in the Ohio Valley Conference, I mean, we had at Belmont a lot of good steeplechasers. We saw Eastern Kentucky have a lot of good steeplechasers. Like, they would just become different animals when you put a hurdle on the track. It is pretty wild. Anything else here? I was a little surprised. I thought Chitsama would have run a little better.
Oh,
Um,
really? Well, that's a 5 second
yeah.
PR for him.
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of faith in him. I maybe it's just like the Oklahoma State like bias in me that with Masaldi and Shoppy, the guys that I really like. But I mean, a good PR. But I feel like he's someone that's very capable of being very competitive at the national stage, and maybe and I guess 840 and being right behind Trippas isn't a bad indicator of that. But maybe thought he would have run a little faster.
Oh, I thought that was a great race for him.
No. I mean, it's not bad. I just maybe thought he could have run 8:38.
Okay. Anyways, we'll move on. I just disagree. Yeah. All right. What do you want to move on? Oh, I guess the women's steeple now.
Yes. Let's go to the women's steeple. We saw Kaylee DeLay run 9:48 for the win. Caitlin Mitchum 9:52. Laura Taborda 9:54, and Lona Latima 9:57. First thoughts on this?
Cool. It's kind of it.
Not a whole lot here.
Mitchum ran great.
Very
Mitchum's
predictable,
awesome.
with the exception of Mitchum. Like
Mitchum, ran really well, but like, yeah.
I mean, these aren't like crazy fast times. Like, I mean, delayed 9:48 is pretty quick, but like we know that she's capable of that after last year's outdoor performances.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything. Like, these are good performances. A lot of these women ran well, but like Taborda.
This is the first.
Right.
Is this one of the first races for Arkansas this year? I feel like we haven't seen her.
No, because she in the winter. No, she ran a couple times.
She did run a couple times. She's another one who hits the steeple and all of a sudden transforms into a new runner.
Yeah, she's got a few different results, but yeah, I mean, she is. That's a PR for her actually, like a 4-second PR. Wow. Yeah, I'm just not surprised really by any of this actually. Trying to get like Callie Doan's been pretty good for her to run 9:57. Yeah, Lola Latino. Yeah, that's new for me. Like, that's a great result for her. Again, I think it's just like, let's see what you can do from here now.
Yeah. So. Yeah. All right, let's go to the women's 5K where we saw Grace Featherstone Ha take home the win in 15:30, being Lucy Jenks 15:33, Jenna Hutchins running 15:35. Featherstone Ha just like took the reins of this race and never let go. An incredible surge to go to the front and just hold it and even grow that lead. Really good performance from her. I think we were talking before we got on air. The Oregon State women, just every once in a while, when you've kindly maybe like forgotten about them for a few weeks or they haven't like really popped off, they'll just have this incredible performance where you're like, well, I mean, they could probably beat almost anybody in the country, like if they're at their best.
Yeah. And I even said, I was telling you this, and anyone who reads the articles knows this. I said in our predictions, the Oregon State women are at their best when we underrate them or don't place them high enough in our predictions. Well, sure enough, didn't list any of the Oregon State women in my predictions, and Grace Featherstone Hall runs 15:30, is the top collegiate. We should note that China's Wu Gahi, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, obviously, but she ran 15:26. She was the pro in this field, got paced through it, was pretty much, Featherstone Hall tried to close the gap and did a very nice job of doing so, but she was just he was just way too far ahead. So, but Featherstone Hall 15:30, it pairs very well with her 8:55 3K, her 4:34 mile from the winter months. Like, it's pretty impressive. And then Lucy Jenks 15:33. She's been on like knocking on the door of a breakout race. Like, she's been good in the 5K before. I think she qualified for outdoor nationals in 2021, maybe. She ran 15:42 back in December. 15:33 though was like, oh, she's finally there. Like, she's finally that kind of competitor that I think we knew she could be.
There are very few programs, and I mean, we've talked a lot about what BYU's done, and we'll talk more about that in a sec. But Stanford, like, I think Whitaker and Willis get all the headlines, but the rest of that team is like really coming together very nicely. We've seen a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different women take steps forward. Lucy Jenks is just another one in that long line, and maybe not at the top of like national charts necessarily, but like taking good solid steps forward. And they're such a young team, and I'm just, again, I'm going to go to our cross country brain already. Just very interested in seeing
Yep.
what they do next year, because I love all the signs of progress we've seen from this team.
Could not agree more. I thought the exact same thing. I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but I absolutely agree with you. So shout out to Featherston Hall, shout out to Stanford and Lucy Jenks. Now let's talk about what might be the most important result.
I was like, let's get ahead of ourselves a little
Now
bit
let's,
here.
now let's get ahead of ourselves. Jenna Hutchins was a high school phenom.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. 1534 on the track as a high schooler. 940 what? 7? 948 and 32 as a high schooler. Came into this year with pretty heavy expectations from us, probably from a lot of people. We imagined All-American. Maybe she can be like a top-tier low stick. Who knows, right? But I think the expectations were high. At a really unexciting rust buster, which is basically just her own team versus her own team, she fades hard, finishes 26. Just a fluke, right? Then she almost places just under the 200th spot at Cowboy Jamboree, and she shut down for the season. It was really bad. It was just a really bad 2 races. She was shut down, and it was like, oh, well, I don't think anyone's going to blame her if she's just out for the winter season and comes back in the spring. I don't know how Diljeet Taylor does it, but she got Hutchins back for the indoor track season. She had her run 9:13, then 9:05, then 15:57. And I'm like, that's not perfect, but it's a pretty good sign of growth. And then Hutchins just runs 15:35. That could have been a really challenging, I don't want to call anyone a project, but like that could have been a very just significant challenge between, Hutchins trying to get acclimated to the college scene and Diljeet Taylor trying to like balance that to now get her back to this point where she's running 15:35. I don't think people realize how hard and how much patience that requires.
Well, and also, I mean, you just have this hugely talented runner, and for a very good up and coming BYU team who, like I said earlier, we've been talking a lot about this winter because they've been taking a lot of good steps forward, a lot of women looking really, really good. But if they can get Hutchins, who has the ability to be a top end low stick, as good as anyone in the country, if she can kind of get back to her best and improve on what she did in high school. So if she's like already taking these big of steps from the fall season to indoor, and then just right away from outdoor, you're already seeing this big jump from what she did indoor 5K to outdoor 5K. If she can, I mean, growth is not always this linear, but if she can continue to take just baby steps forward at this point, she is going to be a force over probably the next few months, and especially in about 6 or 7 months.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love how this is all tying back to what's happening 6 to 7 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right though. I mean, you're right. And like, here's the thing: she's not taking baby steps. She's taking leaps and bounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's significant. She's gone from being like, oh my gosh, is everything okay? To oh, she's putting together something decent. To oh, she's back to the elite form that we knew her back in high school. And I think that's it. It's really hard to do that within the span of what 7-8 months, and Taylor did it. Not even 7 or 8 months.
No, I mean, very quickly. It's, and like you said, it is so hard to do that. And if she was dealing with any injuries or whatever, again, that makes it even more difficult. Kaylee Logue, also strong performance from her, 15:36. Anything else before we move on?
Wasn't there another Greta Karaneskate?
Yes, also 15:36.
15:36. She's been running well. Watch out for her.
Absolutely.
That's all I got.
Alrighty, let's go to the men's side where we saw Anthony Carrieri take home the win in 13:26, beating Chandler Gibbens 13:28, Theo Quacks 13:29, and Matt Strangio of Portland finishing in 13:31. Caballero, I mean, I was hoping for that breakout track performance after the breakout cross-country season, and we kind of got that a little bit in the anchor leg of the DMR, where it was, and it's hard to say you have a breakout performance in a relay, but it was a very, very good performance there. This is the breakout track kind of performance that I was hoping we would see. 13:26, looking very dominant in this race, beating some strong names and just coming home with a very, very good time. This is kind of what I was expecting, and I'm really happy to see it.
At one point on IAAF, he's ranked number 1 in the world for the 5K. Just thought it was funny. He puts it on his story.
Trivia fact to have.
Yeah, he was like, I love running fast before anyone competitive starts running fast, or something like that. I don't want to incorrectly quote him, but it was something kind of funny. But yeah, he's awesome. Like, and this is exactly the kind of performance that I think we were hoping to get in the 3K during indoors. At least I did. That's what I was hoping for. It's just he did it on the outdoor oval in the 5K. I love it. It's exactly what I like. The caliber of what his firepower and what his ability is. This is what I thought it was. I didn't think it'd come in the 5K. I thought if this is going to come, it'd come in the 3K. And if it doesn't come in the 3K, it's going to come in the mile. Turns out,
he was traditionally a middle distance runner in Miami of Ohio. Like, middle distance. That's the crazy part.
And now, like, he gets to Ole Miss, and they're like, "Hey, you know how we're a middle distance program? You're going to be a 5K cross country guy." And it's like, "Oh, well, okay then." So that's awesome, though. I mean, he's thriving, running really well. He's well-rounded, experience, has momentum. Like, reached that next tier. He's consistent. I like him a lot. He's really good.
Absolutely. I should also mention D2's Dylan Powell ran 13:30. Still on the transfer portal, I believe. Just another great example of someone that every team in the country could absolutely use.
Yeah. And I don't even think that's his PR. I think he ran faster somewhere else. Yeah. So I don't know.
Good to see Theo Quacks kind of, he's kind of bounced up and down a few times, run 13:29. Hopefully he can kind of hold this consistency throughout the rest of the season. He's a huge talent from the 1500 to the 5K. He's very, very good. And proved it as well here. I just hope he can kind of put together a full consistent season. And he's someone who could absolutely be competitive at NCAAs if he kind of has a complete season.
I would say probably the best race he's ever had. A significant step in the right direction. I think I just need to see more before I'm like, you're definitely going to be on the national stage. But just because there's moments where I don't really ever know what I'm going to get from him. But he's rebounded incredibly well since he had that setback a year or two ago with some injuries or whatnot. Let's talk about the name that everyone actually wants to talk about, though. Chandler Gibbens is a Missouri native who had high school PRs of, according to MileSplit, 4:13, 9:19 for 3200s, and like I want to say 15:20s something, 15:26, let's call it, for 5K XC. He entered this weekend with a 13:59 5K PR, and that was pretty significantly his best PR by a good bit. The Kansas Jayhawk runner, dropped 31 seconds and ran 13:28 in the 5K to come out of absolutely nowhere. It was so, I think I looked at the results. I was like, what I was like, is he an international guy? Did we just not know about him? Like, did they just get recruited in the winter? No, he just broke out, and it's just one of the biggest breakout races I've seen in a very long time.
You reading those high school PRs and them being so very close to my high school PRs is hurting a little bit, because I ran 9:17 in the 3200 in high school, and I didn't turn out to be a sub 13:35K guy.
You ran
I know. But this isn't like me like being like, oh, I had a bad career, but this is wild. 13:28, like, to go sub 13:30. I mean, of course, that isn't, as we've talked about in all these other events, that isn't what it used to be, but that's still really freaking fast. And to come in second in this race against a lot of, like, I mean, you look at the BYU guys. I mean, Joey Noakes, Creed Thompson, Brandon Garnica, all ran in the 13:30s. All guys that probably have been beating him in any other race that they've run in before today. And all of a sudden he's giving them the business by 4, 6, 8 seconds. I mean, incredible race. And just one that I don't think anybody could. I don't even think he probably thought that he was ready to run 13:28.
I don't. I mean, it breaks Jim Ryan's record.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what to say about it. Here's the thing: we just don't know anything about him. I'm sorry. Like, we can do all the research on his background that we want, but this is a guy who wasn't even, a 3K score at the Big 12 championships. Like, let's take a look at what his PRs were, or are, I should say. There we go.
And also finishes at like Big 12s. I'd be curious, like, what did he finish this winter?
So here in cross, he's second at Gans Creek, which is actually okay. And then he was 30th at Big 12 XC, and he was 21st at Midwest Regionals, which is pretty hilarious relative to what you're running now. His current PRs, other than the 5K, are 3:48 for 1,500 meters, solid. 4:06 in the mile, 8:05 3K, and 29:38 10K. So yeah.
Did he break his 3K PR in the middle of this race? No, very close though. 8:13. That's.
Oh wait, let's see. So 8:13, you said?
I think so. If these splits are a little weird, but
yeah,
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that's the fourth fastest 3K he's ever run within that 5K. And he's run it like what? Like, probably had to be 12 times roughly. So,
and had the fastest last 400. Like,
yeah, he did. So here's the thing, other than just being a complete amazement here, it's now just a matter of like, what do you do next? We have no idea. We have all these questions. Whether you do or not, Ben, I'm going to say that you do for you.
Oh yes.
We just have no clue. Like, I remember there's been guys like who have these races and then never follow up on it. Mm-hmm. And there's guys like Astanis Ruiz who had nothing on his resume last year, almost nothing. And then he's like, I'm going to be one of the best steeplechasers in the country. We're like, you sure? And he's like, yes, here. And he's made to the finals. Like, it's incredible stuff when guys just flip on the switch. I don't know how he did it, but man, that must have been really humbling. If you're the NAU and you're the BYU guys in there, that must have been humbling. So,
I mean, this example is someone who was significantly better before, but flipped the switch. I mean, Fouad Masoudi's 3K, and then him turning into what he did. Like, I mean, obviously, a little bit of different, like, stratosphere where he was before. But yeah, sometimes you can have that breakout, and that gives you the confidence in your training and your fitness, and all of a sudden you become this completely different animal. Or, like you said, you can be a flash in a pan. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I have a feeling that, we'll see if he's in the right race to try to replicate that kind of time. I don't think at this point it's about time. I think now it's like, how competitive can you be with the top guys? So I think I'm like, okay, you've shown you're at least fit enough to run the time, but are you fit enough to then put yourself in a good positional tactical race, surges, et cetera, et cetera. And, he's shown promise, but this was next level.
Well, yeah, and finishing second in this race is like, not like, if he had finished like 7th and run the same time, I think we would have seen this a little bit differently. But the finishing the second is a nice boon as well. You want to transition to the women's 1500?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. At Stanford, we saw Billy Jepkuri run 4:14 to take home the win, beating Simone Plourde. Abby Goldstein and Claire Seymour running 4:15 and 4:16 respectively. I think elsewhere we saw Solan Ayildiz run 4:14 to win at Florida this past weekend. I think that was the other big 1,500 meter performances. But at Stanford, this was a crazy race. Going into the bell lap, you had like 10, 12 women, all like very, very competitive, like within a second of each other. They were very bunched out. I mean, and granted, this wasn't like a super, super fast race, but this was not like a sit and kick like performance.
It was honest.
Like, it was fairly honest. They had a pacer. Like, it was not slow. And for that many women to be right there, and then for Jeb Curry to be able to hold off Plord, who was doing her best to go past her. And I really thought she was going to go past her when I was watching it. But a very good performance for Jeb Curry, who I think continues to impress at Oklahoma State. And elsewhere, I would have liked to see Goldstein close that gap a little bit more. But elsewhere, I think everybody can be pretty okay with this performance. And Hertenstein, maybe not the best day for her. But elsewhere, I think everybody ran pretty solid.
She's a 5K runner. But Jeb Curry is just, I mean, she made her move perfectly. Thank you for just catching up to me on that one. Jeb Curry.
Yeah, didn't get that at first, but then I was like, oh, that's the drum that he's been banging for like 3 years now.
Thank you for slow. I think it's better that you slowly caught up to that one. Like the dramatic effect is better for it. Anyways, yes. Jeb Curry, I like that she made the move when she did. I think she's a strength-based runner. So kind of like I mentioned with Kiprop, Victor Kiprop, Impact Kiprop in the 5K. I like that she made her move around 300 meters to go. Yes, she did run 2:04 in the 800 meters the next day. But I think that you look at her cross country and like what she did on this past fall, outside of the national meet, she was outstanding.
Very good.
Very good. So I think it was a smart idea to kind of just try to take the kick out before the last 100 meters. Clearly, it worked just enough. I think that's what maybe kind of held Goldstein back by a second or two. I think Goldstein still actually ran pretty well, all things considered. So I think, I'll say this, I think Jeb Curry ran the smartest race, or at least had the smartest finish. Actually, smartest race. I'll even go smartest race because she put herself at the front, didn't get boxed in, didn't get into all that trouble, and she made the right move when she had to. So I'll say smartest race. I think the best race, or maybe the most impressive race, is Simone Plord. She's boxed in with 400 meters to go, has nowhere to go. She's clearly trying to like inch her way up there. She can't. She almost trips on the inside rail going into that final lap. She's going along that first curve of the final lap, and she's like bouncing around trying to get to the outside line, can't get there. She's exerting all this energy, and then she has to try to kick with Jeb Curry from 300 meters to go, closes the gap, and just doesn't have enough at the end. If she's just in a better position, or if she's on the outside lane, she wins this race. And so the way that she salvaged this kind of finish, I think, is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that was the most impressive thing that Jeb Curry did, is she just got out of the mix. Like, she just separated her from that very dense field. Like, and I think that's what Plord had to deal with, and that was ultimately the difference. Like, just staying clean, and even though she had to take that race like fairly like from the lead fairly early, that was more beneficial than having to sift through 9 other women trying to break after her, and that's ultimately what got her the win. But yeah, Plord, I mean, I'm really excited to see what she can do the rest of the season now, because that pop that she showed with about 100 to go to kind of get her right in line with Jeb Curry, and then she faded because you could just see all the work that she had to do from like 400 to 300 catch up to her. But if she can run a little bit cleaner of a race, a little smarter, time her moves a little better, I mean, she's going to be very dangerous this year.
So she ran 8:53 in the 3K this past winter. Was a fifth place All-American? I think, yeah, one of those two.
Let's take a look.
Is she a 5K runner this spring, or is she a 1,500 meter runner?
I think after this race, she's a 1,500 meter runner. I liked what I saw from a turnover perspective.
Yeah, I did.
And that's what I worry about with women who are in who have run good 3K times and have to decide between that 15 or the 5K. And yeah, she was 4th at NCAA's. Because you can run a good fast 3K and not necessarily have a ton of great turnover. You can just be really, really strong. I think what Plord showed today is that she does have that turnover to be able to be a 1,500 meter runner.
Yeah, I mean, her reputation going into Utah was she was a 15/miler. So I think it makes sense that was the case there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is what it is. So that's all I really have on this.
All right. Let's go to the men's 1500, and I believe the race that we are going to highlight is Florida relays, where we saw Camden Marshall run 3:39 from Indiana. He beat Evan Dorenkamp from Penn State and Hillary Chariot from Alabama, who both ran 3:40. Quick takes on this before we finish up with the 800s.
Huge for his stock and the transfer portal.
True.
People forget that he's in the transfer portal 2 years. Ran 147 indoors, 357 in the mile as well, 339 to a national lead to a win at Florida Relays. I think just looks really good on paper. You know, in actuality, we can debate that all day, but it's a really good mark on paper, and it's also a nice win. The Dorenkamp's a great 1500-meter runner. So
super underrated.
Yeah, very. And he's coming back from an injury, but for Dorenkamp, this is also a great race. But Marshall's stock could not be higher.
Yeah, that's an absolutely a very good point. Whoever gets him, and he probably opened up the different schools that'll look at him now because of this race. He's probably got a lot more options himself. So yeah, very clutch performance from him, and then good run coming back from injury, like you said, from Dorenkamp. Chariot, very solid performance, and I think his first 1500 meter of the year.
Yep, I agree.
Let's go to the women's 800, and we saw a couple different fast times across the country. We'll start with Claire Seymour, who ran 2:01 at Stanford to take home the win. I mean, we've done this before, so we don't have to go through it all again. But she just, when she's on a tear, she is on a tear. I mean, after a very good and like last few weeks going into indoor nationals, she comes out and runs a NCAA #1 time at Stanford, just finishing under 2:02. And that's not a PR for her though.
It's just off. It's like 0.05 off.
0.05. I mean, to be able to do that this early in the season for her, very scary for the rest of the NCAA.
It's just like, it's night and day. And like she completely soloed it. Yes, she had a pacer through like 450, right? But generally speaking, like she knew that was a pacer, right? Like she didn't have to make a move around the pacer. She could follow the pacer, and then she was alone for 350 meters. Like she gapped the entire field. That's a good field. Like there were, national caliber names in there. The only thing that I'll say is like she ran 2:01 at the indoor national meet last year, came out, looked pretty strong, and then kind of didn't do too hot at the outdoor national meet. Don't think that's going to be the case this year, but maybe something to monitor, something to keep in mind. Like I said, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's a live and learn kind of thing. I think she is only recently catching fire, and I think that makes the biggest difference because of just how slow of a start she got off at the beginning of the year. So, but we'll see. I mean, this is obviously an incredible result. We could talk about the race, but there really wasn't anything to talk about. So,
elsewhere, we saw Valerie Tobias run 2:03 at Texas Relays, and then at Florida Relays, we saw Taya Shelby of Vanderbilt have a breakout performance running 2:03. Rachel Gearing ran 2:03 with Imogene Barrett, and Haley Kitching running 2:04 behind her. For Shelby, though, this really, really good performance here.
Top collegiate out of the second fastest heat.
Don't see that very often.
No, yeah. You can ask Michaela Rose, though. But yeah, Vanderbilt, traditionally a sprinter / long sprints. Her fourth 800-meter race ever, and she went from 2:05 to 2:03. Again, top collegiate out of the second fastest heat. So we still don't know that much about her, other than she has a lot of speed. So.
Yeah, I mean, she was third at not at NCAA's, at SECs in the 800, which I mean is a very good performance. Vanderbilt has turned out some pretty good half milers before, and it looks like she could be next in line. And then for the Penn State women, good performances to start the season.
Real quick, she was third where?
At SECs, is that right?
Please hold. My internet stinks. Oh yeah. How about that? I just never saw this. I think we were probably because we were distracted by Rose and Wilson and how fast they ran. I just kind of ignored Shelby. So all right, so I take that back. So it wasn't a 2-second PR. She had run 2. Wait, then why did it say 2:05 previously? I don't like that.
I'm also why was she in the second fastest heat?
Oh, I see. This is never mind. Yeah, I see. That was for outdoors. It's so outdoors. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, 204. Did she run that twice?
Yeah, at prelims and finals.
I don't know why she was in the second fastest heat then. Yeah, I just
That's
misread. I was only
very
looking at that.
strange.
Let's go back and correct that. Yeah, that's strange, but that's all I really have.
All right, let's go to and wrap up with the men's 800, where Texas Relays stole the headlines. We saw Uzma El Buchabi from D2, right?
Yep.
Run 145 to take home the victory over Tiernan Cork. Well, was Tiernan Corkin in that same heat? He was, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same, yeah.
Corcoran running 146, Busy Mana running the same time, Jonathan Jones and Cameron Heron running 147 behind them. I mean, this was set up to be a very quick race. We had a Texas pacer who pushed it very early, and then Jones and Busy Mana were right there, but Bushabi's kick was absolutely dynamite and a very electric performance there. And then everybody else, I mean, good performances. We're in April. If you run this kind of time after running really quick at NCAAs, I think people could get a little concerned about seeing Busy Mana lose this early in the season, but he ran a good time. He's going to be peaking at the right time. There really isn't that much to say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and also this race is a time trial race, and I know that's kind of what it was during indoors, but everyone kind of knew that, right? It's just kind of a different field. I'm not looking too much into this. I'm really not. In terms of Busy Mana or Jonathan Jones, Corcoran ran a great race. Corcoran 146. I mean, I think we were kind of waiting for him to kind of get to that point, or at least get back to that point. But El Bashabe, Angelo State. I mean, just a lot of people don't know him. He's a Moroccan. He was listed on the Angelo State's roster at the Division II level last year. Didn't race at all. He's technically a freshman by eligibility. He is a front runner, an aggressive front runner. Is not afraid to go out and push, gas. Ran the D2 indoor 800 meter record twice this past winter. Beat West Ferguson, and anyone who knows D2 level knows that West Ferguson is just an absolute baller. So it's just one of those instances where, sorry, my brother was trying to call me here. I had to decline him for the podcast. Everyone just know. So he's a big deal. Is all I'm saying. El Bachebe, 0.07 seconds off from the D2 outdoor record. He's had how many? He's had 5, or I don't even know how many races he's had. Or 9 800 meter races at the collegiate level, and he's already one of the all-time greats at D2.
I mean, just the way he was able to glide past Busy Mana in that home stretch was really, really a thing to behold. It was a smooth kick, and for someone like you said who is a front runner, for him to be able to stay relaxed, not try to chase that really quick opening 400 and stay patient and then make his move at the perfect time. I thought that showed a lot of really strong tactical awareness.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think he probably knew. He's if I try to front run here, these guys will get me. And I think he was smart enough to recognize that. That said, they also went out very fast.
They did.
Yeah, that was not an easy pace regardless. And oh, by the way, in all of this, he upset Bryce Hoppel.
Yes.
And Hoppel looked good. Hoppel looked like he was running well. So, yeah, shout out to El Bachebe. Do you have anything more on this race before I'm going to throw a curveball at you?
No, throw the curveball.
Penn State.
Yeah.
Did you read my first thoughts article today?
No, I did not.
Okay. Penn State had 6 guys during the winter months run 148 or faster. 3 of their guys in that same season ran 147. Callum Dodd just ran 147 and finished 3rd behind Darius Smallwood. Penn State now has this year, and it's still only April 2nd as we're recording this, 4 guys at 147 for a total of 7 guys at 148 or faster. Oh my gosh. Where are they coming from? Like, where is he coming from?
And
I don't.
this is rebuild. This is like a rebuilding Penn State team too. That's the scary part.
And they're getting a 149 guy like next year, like a freshman, a true freshman.
Crazy.
It's just like let me try to pull up this Penn State roster here. See, maybe he was an internet. He's an English graduate transfer, and that's what we were missing. Wow, crazy.
Yeah, they have proven depth, and with why am I forgetting his name for the top really strong finisher, Handel Robon's finish at NCAAs. They have the depth and that top end capability now. It's like Iowa State from years past.
I was gonna say, who's 800U right now? Because
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think Iowa State has a little more firepower because of the number of 146 guys they have. They don't have the depth that Penn State does. So I think it depends on like what you value. But who's 800U?
I don't think it's either of them this year.
You think it's wait, this year?
Yeah.
Hold on. All right. Let's say who we think 800U is or still is. Ready? On three. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Texas A&M.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at this if I'm Texas A&M, I'm like Devon Dixon, Brandon Miller.
Yeah, I mean, like historically, Watson. Sure. Yeah, I think I mean more like in the last year or two. I think Texas has. I mean, just behind Bizimana, Jones, Croza, and now like the other guys that they've been able to develop. Herron, I mean, it's hard to have a top three that's better than those.
Yeah, those Herron actually just ran 147. So I think historically, because if you want to base this off of titles,
it's A&M 100%.
It's A&M.
But I think in terms of depth, you're talking about probably Iowa State over the last like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and I think Penn State's trying to come back for the crown.
Yep, agreed.
So,
all right, well, let's wrap it there. That was that was a place I didn't think we were going to go today, but I'm glad we did. Anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
Recruit rankings are now on the site. Go check them out. We had a really nice job from our team there. Top class of 2023 middle long distance recruits. We have analysis comps, potential fits. We show you where they're committed to. It's really actually one of our coolest pieces of content on the site.
It is.
Traffic suggests that. Also, if you were trying to sign up for anything for a subscription, there was a 1 or 2 day period where we had a quick, small little glitch where you couldn't see the verification form for a new account. That's been fixed. So if you want to go check out some of the content, you get 14-day free trials. If you want to sign up for a plan, go check that out. We've got some high school content coming this week. We've got D2, D3 rankings, which if this is released on Wednesday, should already be coming out. And then more predictions, more previews, hopefully another Lane 9 episode. Go check out the Lindsey Cunningham episode, Lane 9. Yes. And then, that's all I got.
Always go listen to whatever Brett Hafner's doing. He's a fun guy to listen to. So check out Lane 9. It'll be a fun ride.
So other than that, there's probably, let's end it here because I'll keep going on forever. So that's it.
All right. Well, until next week, I'll talk to you, Garrett.
I'll talk to you.